Ladies and gentlemen, I am Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It is August 19th, 2022. This is your daily Ukraine update, and we are going to be taking a look. Is Russia preparing for a nuclear false flag? Sounds scary. We're going to break down the evidence right now. Okay, as always, we're going to kick it off with the map. And an interesting day. There's only a minor advance east of Ulagar. And as we've talked about, this is literally empty turf the Russians have seized. And it continues to sort of puzzle me that while Russians are making very, very minor advances, they sometimes seem to be doing so in a way that doesn't reflect an actual military strategy, right? It seemed for a while like their primary target was Bakhmut, but as you can see, in the last several days, Bakhmut hasn't really made any advances. It's been almost a week since they have advanced and seized any territory in this area. Instead, we've seen sort of small gains near Donetsk, which does have some strategic value, but then you have stuff like this where it's not clear that anything of value is being seized, and it's not part of a larger campaign. It's sort of just taking snippets of territory as opportunities arise. Of course, there's no news on the Kherson front. As we can see, they're just no movement to speak of officially. Certainly possible that there is some movement in the that hasn't been publicly disclosed yet. But what is interesting and perhaps troubling is some of the reporting here. First, they note that according to Institute for the Study of War, that Russia on August 18th made no claims of gains whatsoever, which is unusual, they said. First time since July 6th. So, again, sort of reflecting even Russia can't sort of massage the truth to reflect the reality that there's just not a lot been going on. They really can't seem to gin up the combat power to seize significant territory. Now, there's also been reports, though very unconfirmed, of even more explosions in around Russian military sites in Crimea. Some sources report that it is actually a Ukrainian drone that is shot down by Russian air defenses. Some report that it might be just an accident. It might be Russian air defenses being a little jumpy. But shooting down a drone would make a lot of sense, because one of the theories that I heard posited about the Crimean airbase attacks that we've seen recently is that the reason that these strikes are so precise is that because it's actually a special forces team with a series of small, very precise drones that are being guided into the target. So it's not, the World War II style special forces team, cutting holes in the fence and planting explosives on the side like a Call of Duty mission. Instead, it's a team with a truck full of small drones with small explosives, but if you know where to put that small explosive on an aircraft or on a munitions dump, you can really produce a big bang. And so that would also align or confirm these reports here that what Russia is looking for, Russian air defenses are looking to stop drone attacks. Makes perfect sense. There's actually some precedent for sensitive sites being attacked with drones. I want to say a Saudi oil refinery was actually attacked with drones, with miniature drones several years ago, and it produced enough destruction that it actually changed oil prices for, I think, several weeks. So that is, again, a theory that I'm leaning towards, but it's just that. What's more worrying, much more worrying, is some of Russia's statements that at least Institute for the Study of War speculates are going to be setting conditions to blame Ukrainian forces for a future false flag operation at a nuclear power plant. Now, I want to just give you guys appropriate context that I think is worth acknowledging here, is that the power plant we're discussing is right here. It's off of this reservoir. And the reason this is significant is because this is it is controlled currently by Russia. And what's worrying is that, they say, right, Ukrainian forces are preparing for a provocation at the power plant, and the provocation is meant to coincide with the UN Secretary General's visit to Ukraine. Okay. Russia claims the Ukrainian forces are preparing to stage this provocation to blame Russia for causing a nuclear disaster to create a 30-kilometer wide exclusion zone around the NPP. And then it was, of course, repeated by the Russian MOD. Here's the weird thing. This doesn't make any sense. One, it makes Russia's claim that Ukraine wants to do it to piss off the UN makes zero, and then blame Russia makes zero sense. Ukraine already has the support of the West. They don't really need more support. They're getting a lot of support and money from Western forces and Western governments. And frankly, Ukrainian forces are enjoying probably some of the best battlefield success they've had since Russian forces withdrew from Kiev. Obviously, they've stopped the Russians basically everywhere. Russian offensive capabilities seem to have dropped to virtually zero. And the Ukrainian forces are achieving some really effective shaping operations. So again, it would be weird that things are going pretty good for you and that you would engage in some sort of weird false flag operation, especially to piss off your allies who are already on your side. You don't need to make them even more on your side. Right? Of course, Russia, in contrast, they seem to also have a very, very specific plan, which is strange given that, Ukrainian forces, I mean, it's possible sometimes intelligence leaks with a lot of very specific details, but knowing that you can produce a 30-kilometer wide exclusion zone is pretty weird. It's a really specific outcome. And I would want to point out that a 30-kilometer wide exclusion zone, there we go, would be pretty useful because it would, let's see, 10 kilometers, it would put them just at the outskirts of Bakhmut. Huh, wow, interesting. That exclusion zone would be perfect to allow them to seize a operational objective. Seizing Bakhmut is not in and of itself a major win for Russian forces, but it's their operational objective, and frankly, it seems like conventional forces are struggling to get the job done. So it sort of would benefit Russia tactically, but this is sort of like trying to exterminate an ant infestation in your house by burning the house down. This is an escalation that's pretty insane. But Russian authorities have told Russian nuclear power plant employees not to come to work tomorrow, August 19th. That's today. And some leaked footage from the plant shows 5 Russian trucks very close to one of the reactors, but the date isn't specified. Very, very worrying stuff. This is actually supposedly the footage they're citing. It's obviously on a pro-Ukraine Telegram channel, and the date isn't specified, but you can see, all right, this is just sort of him walking. There's not really anything, but towards the very end of the video, we're going to see, okay, well, let me skip ahead. Very cool. Towards the end of the video, we'll see 5 Russian trucks parked inside the reactor. There they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're Russian cargo trucks, right? Parked one after the other inside the reactor. Somebody is very nervous about this, probably freaking out, as makes sense if you were, if you were running a nuclear power plant. The closer military operations get to your power plant, the more nervous you become. I think that's just common sense. Of course, there are a ton of totally innocuous reasons for these trucks to be here. Could be everything from food for troops stationed at the power plant to spare parts to just, taking away the old troops who were here on guard duty and bringing in the new shift. It could be anything. Similarly, this could just be a bunch of nonsense hype, but I will say Putin does have rumors of false flag operations have dogged Putin since he took power. Most famously, he I'm trying to think of the nice way to put this. An apartment bombing that was attributed to, oh my gosh, not Crimean, Chechen terrorists was there. The FSB were in the area doing things with a big unmarked van in the basement of the apartment that blew up. And then immediately after that, of course, a surge of nationalism allowed Putin to become elected. And of course, 20 years later, he remains in power. It also justified a crackdown on Chechens, eliminating sympathy in the public for the Chechen cause. It was a very, very effective political coup. And man, those Chechens could not have timed their attack better to support Vladimir Putin's efforts to seize power. So there again, these sort of false flag operations are not alien to him. But again, for Putin to stage a nuclear incident would be beyond the pale. And the idea that U.S. intelligence is not dialed in on this like a laser. And if they were to claim Ukrainians would do it, there's a really good chance that the U.S. would be willing to disclose or demonstrate that whatever evidence they have that Russia, in fact, did actually do this themselves. Though again, telling your Russian employees to leave the plant is sort of evidence in and of itself that you are the ones who are in charge of this, right? Because logic tells you that if this were to happen, maybe you'd have your employees leave the plant, but you would bring in a lot more soldiers to defend it. So anyway, fingers crossed, this is just a bunch of rumor, a bunch of Telegram nonsense, and hopefully this is not something we see today. Anyway, guys, as always, of course, if you are here for the combat videos, the high intensity stuff, YouTube has cracked down quite heavily on a lot of my content. I've actually even had some of my daily updates get demonetized. But Paul, you only use just maps and news stories. Yes, I agree. So if you can support on Patreon, right, you'll get access to every 2 weeks. I drop a couple of combat footage breakdowns. And of course, thanks to the Lieutenant tier patrons, you guys make this possible. See you in the next one.